מזמור השיר ליום השבת מזמור השיר ליום השבת שימחני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארנן הגדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד עמדו מחשבותיך מזמור שיר מזמור שיר ליום השבת מזמור שיר ליום השבת Nay na 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 nay 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 na nay nay na 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 nay nay. Nay na 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 nay 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 na nay nay na 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 nay nay. Nay na 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 nay 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 na nay nay na 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 nay nay. Nay na 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 nay 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 na nay nay na 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 nay nay. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra yetzir nivra. Hey hey nasa b'chefzo kol azay melech shmo nikra azay melech shmo nikra. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, לעם שלו לאפירה, בלי ראשית בלי תחתית, ולא ההוד והמזרח. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, יציר נברא. עת עשה בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבי ועת צרה, והוא ניצי ומנוצי, בנת כוסי ביום אקרא. בידו אכין רוחי, ועת ישן ועירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, יציר נברא. לעת נצח בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. די na 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 nay 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 na nay nay na 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 nay nay. Yay na 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 nay 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 na nay yay na 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 nay nay. Yay na 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 nay 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 na nay yay na 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 nay nay. Yay na 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 nay 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 na nay yay na 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 nay nay. Oh Master of the world, the one supreme afar, guide us on our journey, and let us hear your call. Grant us the strength and hope to carry on. Keep us free and safe. Give shelter to our souls. God will always be with me. I shall not fear at all. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra, yetzir nivra. לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו
There.
I found it.
Oh, found it? Okay, we got it.
Make nothing was yours.
Great. Okay.
Yay lay la lay lay, yay la lay lay, yay la lay lay, ya la lay, ya la lay, yay la lay lay, yay la lay lay, yay la lay lay, ya la lay, ya la lay, yay la lay lay, yay lay lay lay, yay la lay lay, ya la lay lay. Yay, rai, rai, rai. Yay, rai, rai, rai. Rai, rai, rai. Yay, rai, 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 rai. Yay, rai, rai, rai. Yay, rai, rai. Yay, la, lai, lai. Yay, la, lai, lai. Yay, la, lai, lai. Yay, la, lai, ya la, lai. Yay, la, lai, lai. Yay, la, lai, lai. Ya lai la lai lai ya la lai ya la lai lai la lai lai ya la lai ya la lai ya la lai la 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 lai ai lai 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 la lai ya lai 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 la lai la lai ai lai 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 la lai Yay, rai, 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 la, rai, la, rai, yay, rai, 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 la, rai, yay, rai, 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 la, rai, la, rai, yay, rai, 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 la, rai, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Oh. That is really nice to hear. So I'm back. Yes. For those of you who just happened upon services and might not know that I just came back from a very whirlwind trip to Israel, 3 days. Although it feels like it was 6 days because it took like day and a half to get there, day and a half to get back, the whole thing. And it is really wonderful to be together, to be able to celebrate, and for me to be able to share some of my thoughts about what happened over those 3 days in Israel, and there is much to share. But we're here, it's Shabbat, and if I was ever reminded that Shabbat is a day of peace and rest, I just need to think about Jerusalem and how things close down and things become quiet and wonderful. So thank you all. We've got a number of people who are here in the sanctuary tonight. Just a reminder, you too can come on Saturday mornings. Let us know. That's always the easiest thing. But even if you don't let us know and you just show up, we're not going to kick you out. So with that, we begin with Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good and really how beautiful it is that we get to celebrate Shabbat together.
Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Adonai, you abide, though all things change. I am anxious and fearful, and I turn my heart to you, looking to you and leaning on your strength. It is written, blessed is the one whose strength is in you. Bless me now with faith and courage. Help me to feel that you are with me, steadying and sustaining me with the assurance that I am loved. Be with me and bring me hope that in the days to come my aspirations may be fulfilled for good and the good of those I love who depend on me. Banish my fears with the sense that you are always present to uphold and sustain me, as it is written, have no fear, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with the power of my righteousness. Amen. Page 130.
Lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, Adonai. Lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, Adonai. Naria, naria, letzuri shenu, nekalma fana betoda. Naria, naria, letzuri shenu, Bismirod naria lo. Lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, Adonai. Lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, lechu nerandena, Adonai. Ismechu hashamayim, Ismechu hashamayim, Ismechu hashamayim, Betagel haaretz. Ismechu hashamayim, Ismechu hashamayim, Ismechu hashamayim, Betagel haaretz. Hiramayam, 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 Umlo, Hiramayam, 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 Umlo. Ya'alo sadai bechol asher pas yaranenu kol hatzayar. Lifnei Adonai kiva kiva lishpot haaretz. Yishpot tevel betzedek ve'amin ואמונתו.
Page 134, Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, sing praise to Adonai with a lyre, bechinor v'chozimra, the lyre and a melodious song.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor, b'kol zimra. 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 Zamru l'Adonai bechinor.
Page 138, we welcome the Shabbat as a bride, Lechadodi.
Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela. La 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 la. Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela.
Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litzchila la 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 la. Lechadodi, likrat kala,
penei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, וראש מכרם נסוכה, סוף מעשה ומחשבה תחילה. לה 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 לה.
Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei
hands together.
Kabbalat.
Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela.
Hitoreri, kiva orech kumi uri, shir daveri, kivod Adonai alayich nigla la 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 la. Lechadodi, likrat kala,
penei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekavela.
We rise, we turn to the door, we welcome the Shabbat bride.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצורה תוכמוני ים סגולה בואי הלאה בואי הלאה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לה 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 לך דודי
לקראת קלה
פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat, a song for the Shabbat day.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון בכינור מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון ושימחתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך ארנן מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Welcome our Shabbat, the lighting of our candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Page 146, we rise to praise God, to whom our praise is due. Baruch Hu.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? You hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch et Adonai
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed Le'olam va'ed
Yalalai lai lai, 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 yalalai lai lai. Your voices? Am I
awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared?
so good to hear your voices?
Page 148.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. We try together.
Roll into dark,
roll into light.
roll into
Night
light.
becomes day,
Night becomes
day
day.
turns to night.
Day turns to night.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Ore yom balayla, ole or mibnei choshech, kolel or mibnei choshech, bechoshech mibnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day. Keep going.
Night.
Roll
into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Page 150. Everlasting God, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
May be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohim, amen.
Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Mi chamocha ha'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ha'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Torah te'ilo, Osefele, Nora Teilo, Osefele, Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nehedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך. אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 161, on the left side of the page, that's where we will find this prayer, let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkiveinu Beshalom, Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkiveinu Beshalom, Ve'amideinu Shomreinu Lechaim, Ufroz Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu, Let there be love, let there be love, and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Continue. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat. People of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise for Amidah, page 164.
Yananai nai 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 Adonai. Yananai nai 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 sfatai tivtach. Yananai nai 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 ufi agil, ufi agil tehilateha. Yai yai yai. Yananai nai 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 Adonai. Yananai nai 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 sfatai tiftach. Yananai nai 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 ufi agil, ufi agil tehilateha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el HaGadol, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, קומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שבו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור רם אדוני מחיה כל אתה רב להושיע מוריד אתה מקלקל חיים וחסד מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה נאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Praise be Adonai for Shabbat and its holiness.
Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat.
Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence.
Baruch atah Adonai, shotcha levatcha, beira na'abod, modim anachnu lach.
We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulchana elehoto. Shalom ra'av al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. 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 Ki ata u'melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata u'melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom ra'av al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Shalom ra'av al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Before we take a moment for silent personal prayer, we ask God's blessing on those who are in need of healing. On this Shabbat, we are thinking about Chava bat Chaim Mary, Etta Rachel bat Malka Zissel, Gedalia ben Ita, Joyce Eisenberg, Ed Johns, Mindy Elizabeth Jones, Susan Jones, Dr. Benjamin Lechner, Susan Linsenbaum, Leah Tova Bar, Shammai ben Michael, Simcha bat Esther, Robert Parker, Elka Rock, Shaul ben Moshe Varivka, Jackie Robinson, Kevin Webb, Yehudit bat Rachela Veyanko. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak Ve'Yaakov Ve'imotenu Sar Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yavarech Ve'yira Pei Et Cholim Kodesh Baruch Hu Yamalei Rachamim Aleihem Hachlimam Rapotam Lahachazikam Lahachiotam Ve'Shlach Bimheira Refuah Shlema Refuat Nefesh Refuat Guf B'Tok Shar Chol Yisrael Hashtaba Agalav Izman Kariv and Omar. We say Amen. We take a moment for silent personal prayer.
May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. In brefi vegyon libi in brefi vegyon libi lefanecha hiyu leratzon in brefi vegyon libiu perazon imbrifi vegion libi lefanecha Adonai, 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 Suri vegoali, Adonai, 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 Suri vegoali. My rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer, Tzuri vegoali. My rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer, yeah, Adonai, 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 Tzuri vegoali, Adonai, 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 Tzuri vegoali. Verso Imbrifi vegion libi lefanecha.
Shabbat Shalom, Salam Aleichem. We are taught that on Shabbat one receives a neshama yetera, a added soul, and that you get to keep that added soul throughout Shabbat. We're also taught that the city of Jerusalem has an element of holiness to it, unlike any other city, and that when one makes aliyah, when one goes up physically, one also goes up spiritually. And I truly feel there's like a little residual neshama yetera that I brought back with me from Israel and am holding on to through Shabbat. So yes, I just came back this morning, arrived 6-7 o'clock this morning, and from a 3-day trip, 3-day South Florida Rabbinic Solidarity Mission to the State of Israel. We were 16 rabbis who said to each other as we watched Israel being attacked last month that we are hurting. We are hurting. And as my colleague and friend, Rabbi Jonathan Birkin at Aventura Turnberry, just around the corner, remarked, when you are hurting, you need to do 3 things. You need to go home, you need to be with family, and you need to hold the hand of someone who is hurting more than you. And that's exactly what we did. And while it is important to hear their stories, it was more important for us to just be present with the people of Israel. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you. Thank you to the Greater Miami Jewish Federation for all of their work in helping deal with the myriad of details that were that needed to happen literally in a very short time frame. From the time of conception to the time of execution was 2 weeks. I want to say thank you to them for pitching in financially. I want to say thank you to Dade Travel. I'm giving a unabashed plug for Dade Travel, who are they were our tour company, and they put together such an incredibly rich itinerary. In 3 days, I counted this afternoon, in 3 days we had planned, these are the planned meetings, with 30 different individuals representing politicians, journalists, social service providers, educators, community leaders, and just plain citizens. Those 30 did not include the informal conversations that we had with the hotel busboys, the restaurant waiters, our bus driver, the students, and those who we just met on the street as we were going from place to place. While any one of the visits that we made, any one of the meetings that we had are worthy of discussion, I want to step back and talk about some of the broader themes of this very short trip. And as I mentioned in my posts, and the Temple Sinai has put out, I'm going to speak both tonight and tomorrow morning. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about Kol Aravim Zeh Bazeh, that all Israel is responsible one for another. And what does that mean in really very practical ways? Tonight, I want to try and make a little sense of the ongoing conflict between Israel and the Arabs. I'm not going to succeed. I'm going to succeed a little bit, right? Because if I spent 3 days and I'm still figuring it out, all right, I can't spend 7-8 minutes and expect that we're going to get this. When this mission was first conceived, really about 3 weeks ago, we were in the midst of a war. And while it was glorious to go to Israel and to return to normal. Okay? And what does return to normal meant? It meant that the mask requirements in Israel expired on Monday evening at midnight, which meant that I had 3.5 days of not even thinking about, wait, do I have my mask? Do I need to put on a mask? No masks. Okay? But while it was glorious to return to that, at the time that we were preparing to come, Israelis were really joking about returning to normal. And Israel has finally returned to normal. But what does that mean to them? It meant returning to a state of war. They spoke about it as if war is a normal state of affairs. And yet, unfortunately, in many ways, that is indeed the case. Yesterday morning, we met with my teacher, Rabbi Daniel Hartman of the Shalom Hartman Institute. Many of you know I try and go every summer to study at his feet and the scholars at the Hartman Institute. And when he was asked about how different this moment was, he really stunned us by saying, well, if we bracket the current conflict, this is not such a different moment. We're used to people wanting to kill us. Right? No joke. Right? I am very used to it. It is a regular part of my life. I live with a constant awareness that somebody wants me dead. I have a gun. I wear it when I feel that somebody wants to kill me. That is a direct quote. And yet, at the same time, this war in Gaza and Israel was different than any other. Now let's do a quick reminder. Right? Gaza, 140 square miles strip of the coastal land that borders Egypt, came under Israeli control in 1967 following the Six-Day War. In 2005, there were 21 Jewish settlements, about 8,000 Jews in Gaza, who were moved out as Israel transitioned responsibility for the area to the Palestinian Authority. In 2007, right, the radical Islamist terror group Hamas took over power in Gaza in a bloody coup. So for 14 years, they have ruled, right, and I put that in quotes, ruled Gaza, funneling money away from infrastructure and building tunnels that have allowed for trade with Egypt, and of course, terrorism for Israel. Now, it would be easy to lump all Arabs into one, but as we saw multiple times during our visit, there are really four Arab populations that we have to think about. Right? In some cases, right, they have very different agendas and very different desires. There are the Arab citizens of Israel. There are the Arabs who live in Jerusalem but are not citizens of Israel. There are those who live in Gaza under Hamas control, and there are those who live in the territories who are under the control of the Palestinian Authority. Four different Arab groups with, in some ways, very different and in sometimes very conflicting opinions and desires. One of the things that we learned as we met with some of these groups was that names matter. Right? Many Arab citizens in Israel self-identify as Palestinian and commonly self-designate themselves as Palestinian citizens of Israel or Israeli Palestinians. Now think about that and what that might mean, right? And how that registers with you, right? And what that means and how that registers with them as they identify themselves that way. Now, let's get into the conflict of a month ago. The recent conflict was, we heard over and over, born out of a lack of leadership. With Israel lacking a government for the past year and individuals being placed in positions more out of loyalty than capability, Israel was unprepared strategically. The police presence in the country, inside the country, took days before it was coordinated. Now, we can also point to a TikTok challenge. Right, for those of us who are not cool enough, all right, all we need to do, Eliana, I'm sure Eliana Nitzberg, knows TikTok, okay? It's a kid thing, all right, little videos, you challenge, and they create little videos. Well, there was a TikTok challenge, all right, that went through Arab teenage population that encouraged them to go out into the street and beat up Jews. Right? Well, that led to the police closing Damascus Gate, right, in Jerusalem, a place where Arab teenagers gather, right around the same time as the end of Ramadan, right, a powerfully ritual and religious moment within Islam. Okay? At the same time, all right, with the police allowing some 300 right-wing Jewish extremists from the Lahava group to march within a few dozen meters of Damascus Gate, where Palestinians had gathered to create a counter-protest. Now, you tell me, all right, that's like gasoline, all right, being in a match factory. Right? Now, that's just on the Israeli side. Right? At the same time, this current war began as an internal struggle between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. Whereas in previous conflicts, Hamas would shoot rockets, all right? And there's a difference between rockets and missiles, right? Rockets, crudely made rockets, into what I learned was called the Gaza envelope. The Gaza envelope are the territories right around, right, that circle the Gaza Strip. Okay? Hamas would shoot these short-range rockets and then further expand into Israel, right? Further and further. Okay? Well, this time, right, it was different. Right? This time, as the conflict is starting to boil over in Jerusalem, what does Hamas do? Hamas decides that they're going to start by shooting missiles, okay? Missiles fired at Jerusalem. And why do they do that? Because it is a sign, right, to their population that the Palestinian Authority is giving up on the narrative that so many Palestinians talk about, which is the narrative of from the river to the sea. That would be from the river to the sea, we will take over, there will be a Palestinian state, i.e. no Jews. Now what made this recent conflict different was Hamas's increased missile capability. Hamas moved from crudely made rockets to missiles supplied by Iran that have the capability to reach all of Israel, except really the north of Tzfat and the very southern end by Eilat. Okay? There was a palpable sense, right, that all Israel and all Israelis were on the front line of this war. Right? And if you want a powerful image, right, I can talk to you about our visit with Chen from Kfar Aza, a kibbutz right on the border, where she pulled out on her, we sat on her mirpeset, on her balcony, front porch, and she pulled out missiles, right? Missiles that had fallen on the area. And she put them in order from 2008, all right, to what exploded in her area weeks ago. 4 different rockets advancing in technological capacity. So what do we do about that? Well, on Tuesday, we had the chance to visit an Iron Dome battery. You've heard about Iron Dome, Kippot Barzel. Okay, everybody thinks about a kippah as being, what we wear on our heads, right? But a kippah is a covering, right? Barzel, an iron covering, an iron dome, right? This is the technology that was developed jointly with the United States, and really in many ways has changed the game for Israelis, with thousands of rockets and missiles being launched against Israel. The Iron Dome was 95% effective in protecting Israel's citizens. Right? One of the amazing things that I learned, I had the chance to actually see the top of an Iron Dome rocket interceptor. One of the amazing things that I learned was not only Iron Dome's capability of being able to detonate Hamas rockets mid-air, but its ability to determine which rockets to shoot down in the first place. Now, with a price tag of $50,000 each time one of those got shot off and intercepted, okay, calculating which rockets or missiles are going to drop in the sea and which are going to hit populated areas, and then deciding which ones to intercept is really a valuable financial tool. Last month, 20% of Hamas rockets fell in Gaza City itself. Right? They went up, they went down, they didn't, or they exploded inside of Gaza itself. 20%, another 20%, fell into the sea or into open areas. An Iron Dome protected 95% of the remaining 60%. Right? That's an incredible feature. Now, somebody remarked, I don't remember who it was, that it was worth noting that in the recent conflict, Iron Dome is protecting Palestinians in Gaza. And you say, wait, what? Right? How is that? That doesn't make sense. Right? But when you think about it, right, if it was not in place, if Iron Dome was not in place, there would have been greater Israeli casualties and thus a concurrent greater Israeli response. So while we can talk about a not equal number of deaths, right? The fact that there were fewer deaths in Israel meant that there were fewer deaths in Gaza. One of the most significant differences in last month's war than in previous conflicts was the talked about aggression between Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs. Right? What became clear was that while we can throw around words like coexistence, right, it's important to recognize that that is very unevenly spread. During our day in Lod, and we spent an entire exhausting day in Lod. Lod is the city best known for Ben Gurion Airport. It's closer to Tel Aviv, but it's in between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. A city that is literally 7,000 years old, right? It is one of the oldest cities in Israel. All right? But it is a city that has been heralded for decades as an example of coexistence. What we discovered was that really meant living parallel lives in different parts of the city. And even when Israelis came to live in Arab neighborhoods and literally shared apartment complexes, that was not altogether altruistic. Some of you saw the photos of the synagogue and the apartment that was torched in the riots. These were owned by the Garim HaTorani, right, a religious Zionist movement which places communities of families in low-income areas in cities around Israel, where they purchase apartments and work to advance the educational, the cultural, and the social welfare in those communities. And that sounds great. And in a lot of cities, they do incredible work. Right? But they also, as religious Zionists, expressly want to bring Jewish life into those areas. And in the eyes of many within the Arab community, this is seen as a threat. Not only is the gentrification of those areas driving up the costs of purchasing apartments or renting apartments even, but there is a sense in the Arab community that it is being pushed out. Now, friends, I could go on for a long time, What I came away with is that this is an ever increasingly complex situation, that we cannot just label it Arab, Jew. We cannot label Israel, Palestinian. We can't even label it Arab. Right? There are so many stories. Right? While I was in Lod, right, we met another group, a group called Totzeret Haaretz. These are young Israelis, mostly college students. I'll probably talk about them more tomorrow. College students who are given low rent to go work in impoverished or not well-developed areas of cities. Right? They go in and like Garim HaTorani, they go in and they're required as part of a two-year service contract. They have to serve in the community. So we were sitting and meeting some of them and talking with the woman who does some of the coordination, and she told a couple of stories. Right? A story about how Israelis, right? This is in Lod, right? About how Israelis were fearful for their lives, right? Fearful for their lives because Arabs were walking down or running down the street and throwing things, Molotov cocktails and burning and smashing things and calling the police and receiving no response. Calling, you have to come here, you have to come here, you have to come here. No response. She told us a second story of how one of the Totzeret Haaretz, these students are both Israeli and Arab. And she told a story about how one of them had a father and a sister who were at home, right? And one of the rockets from Gaza fell onto their home and killed them. She told a third story of one of the community members whose husband was home and in Lod, right? Was home and was like peering out the window and saw a man driving a car, Arab man, okay? When a gang of Israelis, Jews, surrounded his car, pulled him out of his car, and started beating him. He ran downstairs, right? He got them off of him. They pulled the man into his apartment, called the police. No response. This man sat there. This is not an easy situation. This is not a one-sided situation. Right? So how do we deal with this? How do I frame this in a digestible way? I will tell you that there is a lot of brokenness, right? Brokenness throughout Israel. Broken dreams, lots of broken windows, lots of pain. But what I also saw is a lot of hope. Right? What made this so powerful is the seesaw of emotions as we went from deep pain to deep pride in what is happening in a country that we truly love, that there is hope out of despair, but that hope is a long-term process. This is not going to change. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Okay? It's going to take years, decades of commitment, as Rabbi Hartman talked about. You can't just offer up a peace plan and then say, oh, they said no, I'm done. It doesn't work that way. You have to keep offering. And yeah, we can all very easily point and say, they said no. That doesn't work. Right? You have to keep offering. And you have to have hope that that will change the tenor, because at some point it will. So this is a little harder one. Tomorrow I'm going to hopefully give you a little bit of joy, lots of things for us to be proud about. So tune in tomorrow morning. Come back tomorrow morning at 10:30 for services. We are going to pick up our Sidurim once again, turning to page 586. We're going to invite the congregation to rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. There we go. Remember Toby Sandler, Frida Sussman, Lisa Kubo, Ed McDonough, all who have died over the past 30 days, for whom we are observing Shloshim. And we remember the yortzites of our congregant loved ones whom we commemorated this week. Jerome Azrakan, Morton Bacall, Terry Bauman, Donald Edward Brotherson, Melvin F. Burton, John J.K. Crothers, Gary Lee DeLeon, Sabina F., Israel Finch, Jane Horwitz, Morris Kirsch, Tilly Kromsky, Lynn Lokshin, Rebecca Russo Matrano, Archie Joshua Miller, S. Lewis Morell, Esther Ratcliffe, Christine Chris Rendler, Irving Shalom, Ethel Fink Shapiro, Myrtle Stearns, William Steinberg, Kenneth Swift, Morton H. Weinberg. And we remember those listed below who are remembered on our permanent memorial walls. We join together for Kaddish Yatom, Mourners Kaddish. 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'galau v'zman kari v'imru. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mavarach le'olam olamei omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudashah b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. And Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. The source of peace, and peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved. Together we say, Amen. I invite you to be seated. Thank you to all of our Shabbat service sponsors. I can say thank you to Brian and Sage Canner, hi Sage, who sponsored in honor of their anniversary, Chuck and Lonnie Cantor in honor of their triple chai 54th anniversary, Rabbi Ralph and Brenda Kingsley in honor of Brenda's birthday and their anniversary. Say thank you to Linda Astrakhan, who sponsored in memory of her father Jerome, Esther and Mordecai Fintz in memory of Israel Fintz, Rosellen and Dave Glickman in memory of Archie Joshua Miller, Merritt and Ellen Halem in memory of William Steinberg, Sidel Howitt in memory of her uncle Morton Bacall, Sue Clow and Ann Zartler in memory of their mother Ethel Frink Shapiro, Don and Linda Lockshin in memory of Lynn Lockshin, Bob and Louise Morell in memory of S. Louis Morell, Mary Lou Brotherson in memory of her beloved Dawn, and Mazel Tov on her granddaughter Jenna's graduation from Shenandoah University, obtaining BFA, Bachelor in Fine Arts, summa cum laude, very nice. And Dixie Lampert, not only in memory of Morris Kirsch, but in honor of her granddaughter, Maddie Lamp's high school graduation, third in her class, very nice. And in honor of her grandson, Noah Lampert's graduation from the Kelly Business School. All very nice things to be commemorating. Just a reminder, we're in the summer months, which means that we are heading into the High Holy Days, that we have our Honey from the Heart fundraiser through Sisterhood. This is a great chance for us to spread a little joy and a little sweetness in our community. So please participate. If you order in the next couple of weeks before July 7th, you avoid the per jar shipping fee. So do it now. I think we are ready to go. We're going to conclude our service this evening with Adon Olam. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. There we go.
Page 625. Adon Olam asher mala בטרם כל יציר נברא, עת נעשה בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, לעם שילה לאחירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תקרית, בלא העוד והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצור חברי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוץ לי, מנת כוסי ויום אקרא, ביעדו אף תירוכי, בעת אישן ועירה, באמרוכי גביעתי, אדוני לי בלא עירה, באמרוכי גביעתי, אדוני לי בלא עירה. I haven't played this in
quite a while.
Yes.
Very
before the
nice,
pandemic.
and like
Nice
it's
memories.
almost like a new melody. We invite you to rise for Kiddush and Motzi.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.